What's up, everybody? I'm Chrissy.
What's up? This is Joe.
And this is The Married Life
Podcast. Please. My microphone has been popping with my P's, so I'm practicing, and I was saying please a lot. And Chrissy said, just don't say please.
or podcast. Well, welcome to The Married Life.
Pretty please don't say podcast.
Are you done?
I think so.
All right. Welcome to The Married Life, guys.
What a first impression for all our first-time listeners out there. Hey, great to have you.
If anything, you're going to laugh here.
Yeah.
But
you might not learn a lot.
But you'll laugh. Well, at The Married Life, we really want to help you guys build stronger marriages that are funny.
Yeah.
We want to create stronger families so that we can form stronger communities.
Amen.
And make the world a better place.
Come on.
If I was Miss America, I would want world peace. And apparently be from Alabama.
Yeah, you would. Then we wouldn't be married. I don't touch Alabama. Matter of fact, when I even go to Florida, I don't even drive through Alabama. I told a pilot, don't even fly over Alabama.
Okay, calm down.
I'm kidding.
He's a Notre Dame fan.
Listen, my Mac is running low on juice. We got to burn through this.
Here we go. Today, we're going to keep talking about the Song of Solomon. So if you've been with us for the last couple of weeks, we're going to continue there. And if you haven't, go back a couple weeks, catch up, and meet us right back here.
Yeah, because shout out to Erica and Mackenzie. They both messaged us and said how much they're loving this podcast. Did you see how I had to say my piece there? I even came back a little bit, looked at the microphone. Oh, man. But yeah, so if you have not listened to the whole series, definitely go back on that. Also, for all the men out there, what month are we in? April. Starting in May is when I'm going to release the Kraken, the Pick Up Fight podcast, which is going to be a daily podcast for a season for men. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but you know what? It's 10 minutes, first thing in the morning, something you can listen to in the shower while making breakfast, going for a jog, if you're one of those guys who jogs. Is it
but I think
jogging? Yogging?
I
believe it's pronounced yogging.
I think if they are a jogger, they're going to do it for more than 10 minutes.
Well, then they don't want to listen to my podcast. I make fun of joggers. Anyways.
This week, we're going to be talking about...
What are we talking about?
We're talking about sex.
That's it.
You knew it. You're excited about it.
You know, I would be more excited if I weren't feeling under the weather.
Oh.
You know? Because then it's like, after recording, I'd like to practice what we preach.
Help me. All right, guys, we're going to jump into it because Joe's going to make more than one sex joke. And we got to get through this. So in Song of Solomon, we're going to be in chapter 4:16 today. And it's the woman. She's talking for the first time. And
Not the first time ever.
Would you stop? And she is talking to her now husband. They are now married in this. And says, "Awake, O north wind, O come, O south, blow upon my garden, that its spices may flow out. Let my beloved come into his garden and eat its pleasant fruit."
Yep. Yeah. And she's saying what she's saying here. She
said exactly what you think she said.
Yep. She's like, hey, I've been saving myself for you.
Yeah.
Now come and take it.
Yeah. And I think it's so good. She gives such a good imagery. She's literally luring herself to her husband.
Yeah.
She's giving such a really good visual of springtime. Apparently it's springtime. It snowed here today. That was dumb. Yeah. But it's springtime and things are starting to bloom, and my kids bring me flowers. Flowers are blooming. You can smell them. Like, it's just a different time of the year. It's a very special time of the year. And so you can start to smell the fragrances of the trees and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's springtime in their marriage. She has been, like when you have a garden.
Nope. I know when my wife tries to have a garden.
Anyways.
So, and that's funny because we're going to talk about gardening on this podcast, and I just realized.
Fail. I'm the worst.
You're great at sex, though. And that's really the main point. The main point of this podcast is sex.
Too far. But when you do have a garden, for those of you who've had a garden, I told you he's going to do that today, guys.
That wasn't a joke.
You see all this like fencing around it. It's protected from all the wild animals and the bugs and all the things. You're protecting it. You're using, I mean, if it's not organic, you're using all these chemicals to keep all the bugs off it. She has protected her garden for the longest time. And now she's letting loose.
She's saying, hey, the fruit's ripe.
Come and get it.
Hey, the harvest is ready.
Okay.
Come pick the apple, baby.
Okay. So and if you notice, she says, she starts off saying my garden, and then she changes her verbiage to your garden, to his garden.
Come on.
So she's giving, this is like a gift. It is springtime. She is ready. They are married, and now she's bringing this to him.
You know, and if I could say this.
Say it.
Since we're talking about sex. Is that very often when we go there, Chrissy says my face looks like a child on Christmas morning. Like, I have the biggest smile. But you know what? It's like what she's saying. It's a present. It's like, you know, and it is like Christmas morning. And I love it.
Oh, okay.
And
Thanks for sharing that with the world.
Well, I'm just like, okay, so we're talking about gardening. So what does that look like?
So I actually looked up the definition of cultivating, because that's what it should look like throughout the day. Yep. You should be cultivating this relationship with your spouse.
Because every man wants their husband.
Guys, this is going to be so not helpful for you today.
Rewind. Every husband wants his wife to say what she said at the beginning. Yeah. But the thing is what we're talking about. It takes cultivating to get there. You know, like that's just how life is. Yeah. And so, we're breaking it down into different things that it takes for a healthy garden to get to that fruit. So, right. Because if the fruit is the end goal, if like sex, you know, especially for men, is the end goal, how does a man get there with his wife, you know?
Or a woman.
So,
you know. Yeah. You're just a piece of meat.
You know, sometimes it feels like it. I just want to cuddle.
So I looked up the definition of cultivating, and it's actually kind of funny, the definition that I found, but bear with me, people. So cultivating is actually a combination of two things. It's the removing of weeds from the garden, and it's also loosening up the soil to improve the retention and the penetration of air, water, and nutrition.
Nutrients, babe.
Isn't that the same thing?
I'll have to check.
Okay. So the removing of weeds, it is so important in a healthy sexual, intimate relationship to remove the weeds. You have to remove stresses from your marriage. I'm not saying they're never going to be there, but you need to talk about them.
Listen, right before we started recording this podcast, 2 little weeds ran out of this room, and they are the stresses of our marriage. We're trying to work, we're trying to record, we're trying to do things, and it's like
they're blessings.
They are, but now when it comes to gardening,
well, I think we've talked about before about creating discipline and routines in your home so they go to bed when they're supposed to go to bed. Go back to those podcasts. But removing stresses. If there is something between you and your spouse, if there's an issue, you need to resolve them. Yeah. Don't linger on them. Those things become bitterness, and then intimacy lacks because you're always angry with your spouse, or there's always something you're trying to like shuffle under the rug, you know, and things that you're just not talking about. So when it says go for it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, when we're talking about stresses, when it comes to sex, a man, when he has sex, stress is released, right? A woman can't enjoy sex unless the stress is released prior to it. Yeah. And so it's like we feel that differently, you know? It's like if you and I, it's like, nothing's wrong in the world, you know? But for you can't even, you know, enjoy it because you're so tense from everything else that's been going on in the day. Or like what you said, unresolved tension between you and I.
Yeah.
And so it's things that have to be communicated throughout the day, not just we're getting to the end of the day, the kids are in bed, we're done watching Friends, and now it's time for, picking fruit.
And also it talks about loosening the soil to improve the retention. And so that is about...
Well, before we jump there, I want to talk through this because like some people might want some, like, how do we remove the weeds? So when it comes to us dealing with stresses, how do we resolve those issues?
You want examples?
Yeah, let's just talk about it.
Yeah. I think for me, like being home with the kids, and this isn't for everybody, but being home with the kids all day or with the baby or cleaning or it's just getting some of that help when you get home or when you come out of the office because you work here.
Right.
But it's just that little bit of help. I don't need a lot. I need like 30 minutes. Give me 30 minutes to like get myself together, recuperate, not have somebody touch me for 30 minutes.
Including me.
Yes, including you.
See? It's good to know this.
You knew that. And so whatever that looks like for you, woman out there, you need to communicate that with your spouse. It's not like you need a ton of things. Maybe you do. Maybe you're high maintenance. That's okay. Your spouse married you. He probably knew that already. But you have to communicate those things with your spouse because everybody is so different and everybody needs different things. For me, I need 30 minutes uninterrupted thoughts by myself.
Yep.
And you give me that. Yep. And that's great. Yep. But we've communicated it.
Right. And a lot of times, again, men, you'll run into a place where you feel like your wife doesn't want to have sex with you, but it's because you haven't removed the weeds and actually asked about the stresses in her life and what you can do to relieve those stresses.
Yeah.
Because there are things, just like you said, I mean, again, 2-3 weeks ago when we were doing our marriage checkup and you told me just to pick up some stuff around the house more would help out. Like if you notice it, just pick it up, and how much that actually helps you versus just walking past it and thinking that it's going to take care of itself or the kids are going to take care of it. Because we know the kids aren't going to take care of it.
No.
But that happened because we had the conversation. And so husbands and wives, you have to be at a place to say, hey, if we do a marriage checkup, which is I ask, what are 3 things I'm doing good? What are 3 things I could work on? That this isn't going to become a finger pointing session.
Yeah.
Like when we do it, it's very nonchalant conversation. We were driving down the road at one part, another part we were at dinner. And I think on the other part, we were driving back again, it's just in the middle of conversation. Like, okay, well, hey, we talked about 2. What's the third one? Yeah. And so because it's not WWE wrestling.
And it's not built up. It's because it's become culture within our marriage.
Yep.
And so if you need to alter that and say, okay, what are 3 things I'm doing good at? And what's 1 thing I need to work on? Like, so you don't feel attacked maybe.
Right. That's really good.
Because honestly, sometimes we don't even have 3 things that you need to work on.
Yeah,
and
sometimes it's 7.
And sometimes it's 7. No, you never go over 3 because that's too much and that's not practical to work on. But yeah, alter it. Make it work for you.
And also just for the women to know, again, your husband is a puppy, okay? If you repeat like what he does good, you reward him, what gets rewarded gets repeated.
Yeah.
And so again, the affirmation part is so important for your husband.
Yeah.
And that's it. I mean, you do. I think that's so great when we do our marriage checkup. You say, hey, here's the 3 things and here's 1 thing you could work on. Literally, I think both this time, we both just had 1 thing that we could work on.
Yeah. I feel like mine's the same every time.
Yeah, well.
I'll get it
You're
one
working
day.
on it.
I'm working on it. So yeah, just remove weeds from the garden. Make it ready for harvest. Cultivating, whatever you call it. I'm not a gardener. I don't know these words. But then loosening the soil to improve the retention. You need to take time throughout the day, and this is again going to be specific for everybody, but I think non-sexual touching is very important.
For women.
You need touching too. You like to be touched.
Sexually.
So going back to love languages, maybe you need words of affirmation. Maybe you do need that non-sexual touching. Maybe you need acts of service. Whatever the case may be, you need that loosening of the soil throughout the day. It's more like a warming up.
Yep.
But it's not to get. You're not giving these things to get.
No.
Honestly, it just comes out of the friendship that we have, I believe.
Yep.
We are true friends. And so we like
Friends forever.
Oh my gosh.
Like Saved by the Bell. Anyways, it's crazy that you just said that because that's what I was thinking, and that's not in our notes. Here's my notes. It's not there. But I was actually thinking that same thing, that when you are loosening the soil, you're just loose with each other, right?
Yeah.
You're just friends. You're just enjoying each other's company, not me slapping your butt, grabbing you. You know what I mean?
Which you do that too.
I do, but that's the...
And now my 6-year-old does it.
Sorry. That's the sexual touching. Like, I'm trying to get to the non-sexual touching, which is very hard for me. It is, and I'm pretty sure every man out there has both hands up too. And like, that's hard. Like, yes, we are so attracted to our wives. We're so beautiful. It's like, you just got to touch it. It's like a child. Like, oh my gosh, look at that vase that, your mom says never touch, in the room, because if you touch it, you're going to get in trouble. Like, children are to look, not touch. Well, we're just little kids and we just want to touch.
So have that conversation with your spouse. Communicate with them and just tell them what you need throughout the day that is going to make you feel loved and more of a friend and just closer and all that kind of stuff.
Like, literally, guys, it's the simple conversation. And here's the thing though. We know this, there is no scientific method to having sex every night, right? Because it's like, we've talked about this. I could bring you home flowers one day and you're like, oh my gosh, you throw yourself all over me. I do the same thing the next day and you're like, thanks. It's just, there isn't. So don't think that, oh, well, I had this conversation with my wife, she should want to have sex with me tonight. Like, that's not the goal of this. The goal, because again, when it comes to a garden, it takes time to plant, to till the soil, to get everything ready, to loosen the soil, to remove the weeds. And the fruit is, like, we can't wait for that moment. But when your wife thinks that's the only moment, now she feels like a piece of property, like an object. Now it's different because men and women think differently. Like, when you and I have sex, I don't see you as an object. Like, if I got it every night, like, oh, I won, I got that, that's where I feel most intimate with you. And again, I know that for you though, a lot of the intimacy happens throughout the day in our communication and the way that I make you feel and our conversing and me just being transparent and vulnerable.
Yeah. I came up with one.
Tell me.
A back rub. Just a back rub.
That's for someone out there.
Just a back rub. But with all that said, I'm going to read a little scripture to you. In 1 Corinthians 7:4. With all that said, with all of that, the gardening verbiage, the cultivating, the preparation for, and the friendship and all of that stuff. But in 1 Corinthians 7:4, the wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. And in the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but yields it to his wife.
I yield myself to you, babe.
Done.
Yep, that was easy. Do you want me to take my shirt off, or how do I yield properly?
I think this is really important. Obviously, this is a given for men. This is an easy thing, but for women, we do need to understand that when you said those vows, two became one. You guys do belong to each other, and a no should be very far and few between. And I know there are seasons, and I'm in a season. I just had a baby. Like, my body's doing all sorts of weird things, and it's just like, you don't feel comfortable. There's illnesses. Sometimes people get like chronic illnesses, and there are definitely seasons and different circumstances. And I am not saying that those things aren't real, because they really are. But for the most part, and I think we've talked about this before in a previous podcast, we talked about 3 things that would get a man in the mood, and then 3 things that would get a woman in the mood. And one of the things that I said, and I still think it's very important, and it goes along with a lot of our values in general, but women, you need to be self-aware about the things that you're doing, the things that you're eating. I know when we would go out like on a date night, it's like a special night, and our little joke is like, oh, you'll have a salad because it won't make me feel bloated or gross or whatever, so that I'll be ready later. And so, but we do need to be aware of those types of things. My body is my husband's, and so I need to take care of it in such a way that it's going to make me available to him. And so we need to be self-aware of those things, whether it is physical, the things that we eat, or the things that we do, or the way that we're thinking, or fill in the blank. We need to be self-aware as women. And I know that it can be reversed. I'm not saying that it's just women, because there are some men out there who have a smaller appetite for sex than their wives do. My husband cannot wrap his brain around that, but it happens. And it's very far and few between. But I do want to say that to both men and women, for those men out there who do feel that way too.
Yeah. And then I know we're about to wrap this up, but even when we then get into the garden, so we get into the marriage bed, like that's a place where you can have fun. Like the other night we were talking.
I am really nervous on all these stories you're about to tell.
Sorry. I know we didn't talk about this. But when we were just laughing, and I think you said something along the line like, do we laugh too much during sex?
I was like, is this normal?
Because we have fun.
We do.
It's just a fun time, because again, you're my best friend. We're intimate with each other. It's a good time. And then when it gets serious, it gets serious.
It's like belly laughing though. And I don't even remember what it's about, but it's so funny.
And so what would you say though, like to the woman that, again, when it comes to the bedroom, what is like, would you say is like, okay, well, like, no, the fruit's not ready yet. You can't do that. Or, like when is it okay for the man to really be like pursuing that night? If he thinks I've set all this up throughout the last 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, been working on this, and this, like how do they approach without feeling like they're going to get shut down again?
Oh, I mean, I think that's very multi-leveled, because
I'm asking for a friend.
Stop. But I think it's multi-leveled. You have to, from a woman's standpoint, like you said earlier, our stress is relieved before sex. We cannot mentally get there until and we've talked about it, our brains are webs. And so it can't be it'll never be the perfect. And like you said, there is no formula for it. But to the best of your ability, make sure that there is nothing between you guys. There's no tension, not none, but make sure that you're talking about things freely, and that you're a safe place for your wife, and you've helped out, and she hasn't asked you 20 times to take the garbage out, or make sure she's not frustrated and all of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's like, women, your man is not perfect. You're not perfect. Your man's not perfect. He's not going to do everything perfect. He's not going to remember everything. You got to give him a break. And maybe if you give him some of the stress will be relieved, and he'll remember to take out the garbage. It's like a give and take. And so I just think if you're constantly being shut down, I think those conversations need to be taking place outside of the bedroom, obviously. And then, I don't know, on a date night or whatever. So
another question, because I
for
feel
a
like
friend,
it's good. It's good to have the woman be answering some of these questions. Because again, a guy's like, oh yeah, tonight, and tomorrow night and the next night, you know, and I'm good, like, let's just go. How many times a week is a healthy marriage, having sex? What would you say?
I mean,
Once?
No.
Twice.
I feel like this is a trap.
Every time it comes back, I play this podcast episode for you.
But this is a conversation that we've had. So I have your number in my head, and I'm not going to say a number because that needs to be a conversation. I think there needs to be expectations on both sides, because I know people who have like teenage kids who have something going on every single night of the week till like 9 p.m. And I'm like, how do you have time for your spouse? Like, to me, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'd get rid of the kids.
But to somebody else, that's not crazy. That's just their life. And that's maybe not even an expectation that they have. I think age makes a difference. I just think it needs to be a conversation between you and your spouse. Your spouse comes up with a number. You come up with a number that is a good expectation for you. And then you compromise and come up with something in the middle. I don't know. But that needs to be something specific to every couple.
So even as we're about to wrap this up, a lot of the things that we've even talked about, it all points back to communication.
It does.
Like husbands, if you want more sex, communicate better. Like, that's it. But what I've seen with multiple men, that whether I have done coaching with, counseling with, whatnot, is there's that fail on communication.
Yeah.
And where things get kept inside and bottled up and not know where to release things.
Yeah.
And so I would say, again, like we've said this for so long, but doing the marriage checkup, and then again, just when you're not forgetting that you married her because she's your friend, you should be able to have a conversation with your friend.
Yeah.
And again, if you're at a place where you feel like you can't, like Chrissy and I do coaching, you could talk to one of your pastors, getting a third party in the room, because like coaching, counseling, a third party, a mediator, all that stuff isn't bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's good. Sometimes you need someone to help you break down a wall. And like, oh, cool. Thanks. You helped us break it down. Now you can keep along the journey with yourself. But if you feel like your communication has stalled out, don't just think it's going to pick itself back up.
Yeah.
It will not.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of relationships end up going south, because you're waiting for the spouse to pick up the communication or to pick up what felt, and we have to do it. If you've noticed it fallen, it's kind of like what you told me the other day on our date night. When I notice things are around the house, just pick them up. Yeah. It's just like that in our marriage. If you notice something and your marriage has fallen off, you pick it up.
Yeah.
If you used to read the Bible together, you pick it up. If you used to pray together, you pick it up. If you used to go date nights, don't wait for her to say something. Don't wait for him to say something. You pick it up.
Yeah.
There's so many things that, especially in life, even as we're going on this journey of starting a church, one of the things that I heard on a podcast say that most pastors, the first thing that falls off when planting a church is their prayer life, like praying in the church. And that's so vital. Yeah. And it's like the same thing in marriage, right? Because prayer is communication between us and God. Yeah. With us, it's that same thing. Talking, communicating, sitting on the couch, laughing, laying in bed, talking dreams, and I think we talked about this before, but even if you have issues with not knowing what to talk about with your spouse, think of Ford, F-O-R-D, like talk about your family. Hey, well, how's things going with your family? Blah, blah, blah. How's things going with our family? How things going with the kids, O, which is occupation, like your occupation's a stay-home mom, R is, what's it called? What's it
Recreation?
called? Thank you. Recreation. What you like to do. And then D is dreams. Like, you can always talk to your spouse about dreams. And if they don't have any dreams, help cultivate those. Read a book together, start going on a journey of like, what could we do? Especially in today's world. It's like, I feel like we're doing more now than we were before. And it's like, we have more time for things too. Yeah. It's just like, even this podcast is like a dream. I'm starting another podcast. It's something I enjoy doing, and we talk about it and we have fun and we laugh about it. And you think I'm crazy. That's going to be everyday podcast 5 days a week, but it is what it is.
Yeah. I do want to say this too, because if you guys are stuck on getting the weeds out, because I do believe that that's a really hard part for a lot of marriages. Things just get built up and bitterness just gets built up too. And I think that humility and forgiveness, apologizing, all of that stuff, do not forget it. Humility is huge in marriage. If there's something that you need to fess up to, that you need to ask for forgiveness, like, those are huge things that you need to own. And don't forget those, because I think that a lot of marriages are suffering, and they get stuck from pride and lack of humility.
Yep.
And so really check your heart, make sure that there's nothing there. Ask your spouse, have I done something? Maybe you have no idea.
Yep.
But open up with communication and just be humble and ready to apologize if necessary and be honest if necessary.
Yep. And I was going to say, even while pulling up those weeds, before even going to your spouse and bringing up something or whatnot, go to the Holy Spirit first.
Yeah.
Talk to God first. Because anytime that I talk to you before I talk to God, it ends up being a bad conversation.
Yeah.
My flesh
normally
gets up,
fight.
exactly. A fight breaks out. But when I talk to God and I remember the fruits of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. And I start bringing those into how I want to communicate with you.
Yeah.
It's going to be a better talk. Too many times we let our emotions rise up, and I look at your weeds or you look at mine and we want to pull them out. And when we get so vicious, we don't pull out the weeds. We end up pulling out the fruit, the plant, and we end up killing it.
Yeah.
And so we can go in prayerful and knowing that I have the best intentions for my spouse because I just spent time, even if it's 2 minutes, even if it's 30 seconds in prayer. God, I need to talk to her. Help me be able to bring this up to her, that she wouldn't get offended. She wouldn't get mad when I'm feeling this way or whatnot.
Yeah.
But take it to the Holy Spirit first so you can present it in a way and let her know, hey, I've been praying about this and I just wanted to share this with you. It's something that's been on my heart and I know you don't mean it this way, but I think it might be, stalling us, whatever it is, from getting to the garden, getting to that intimate place.
Yeah. No, that's good. Well, that got real serious after the fun in the beginning.
It really did. We didn't have any of that written down. I didn't think it was going to go there. I thought it was just going to be a fun podcast on sex.
Oh, well, it was.
It was.
Fun. Well, guys, we're here to help you build stronger marriage, to build a stronger family, to form a stronger community. I hope that's what this podcast did for you today. And let's build a better community and a better world.
Yeah, let's do it. Also, if you want more, what's it called?
Content.
Thank you. Go to themarriedlife.org. Chrissy has her blogs out, which I totally forgot to post today, and you worked on that the other day. I'm totally sorry. And then also, if you want to give towards the ministry, you can give right there. If you need coaching, you can sign up for us to do coaching with you. And then also for all the men out there, women, you can share it with them, with your husbands. The Pick a Fight podcast is going to be coming out, like I said, in May. It'll be out 5 days a week. And then that'll probably be one season. Then there'll be some other ones that I have working out. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do it. I'm excited about it.
But it's coming out in May.
It's coming out in May. I promise. I have like 15 recorded. I literally have been like batching them together so I can just throw them all out there.
He's excited, people.
I am very excited. Cool.
All
Well, I'm
right.
Joe.
I'm Chrissy.
And this is Married Life. Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.
See you.